CBS News senior producer with our investigative unit, Pat Milton, joins me now on the phone. Pat, what is the latest that you've learned about the investigation?
Yes, to follow up from what Scott McFarland was saying, we're trying to fill in the picture by talking to our law enforcement sources as to what happened. And what we've been able to find out at this point is that the shooter was outside the cordoned area of the rally, about a couple of 100 yards away from former President Trump. The shooter was standing on an elevated structure, possibly a shed, and the shooter was shot and killed by a member of the Secret Service counter-assault team.
Pat, we saw, and some of our colleagues have reported that there is always a greater law enforcement presence than we're even aware of in events like this. And we saw snipers that were there on other rooftops. How is it possible that this shooter, and by snipers, I mean part of the security detail for the former president, how is it possible that this shooter could be on another elevated structure, even though it's outside of the security perimeter, and be undetected?
Well, that's an excellent question, and I'm sure the investigation will uncover exactly step by step as to what happened and how that individual was able to get into shooting range of the former president. The investigation is being headed at this point by U.S. Secret Service, and they're being assisted by FBI. Of course, that could change. The investigation is treated as an assassination attempt on a political candidate.
And Pat, as we're trying to digest what happened here, obviously it is with some relief that some will feel that the shooter has been neutralized, that the shooter is dead. But I imagine that also for the investigation, does that make it more challenging for them to understand motive, what transpired?
Yes, exactly what you're saying. Motive, we haven't been able to uncover yet, although, as I said, it is being treated as an assassination attempt on a political candidate. But we haven't filled in the picture yet of the shooter. We know it's a male, but we don't know where he was from or what his motivation was. We know that a rifle, an assault rifle, was found at the scene where his deceased body was. But all the investigation will be able to uncover the step-by-step and the tick-tock of what happened during this horrifying event. I had one law enforcement source say to me that former President Trump is a very lucky guy right now.
All right. Senior investigative producer Pat Milton. Thank you, Pat. CBS News political correspondent Caitlin Huey-Burns is in Milwaukee for the Republican National Convention. She joins me now. So, Caitlin, the RNC is set to begin on Monday. The former president was supposed to accept the nomination in 5 days' time. Talk to us about the mood there, the security at the convention site.
Good to be with you, Lana. Yeah, we're here at the RNC. The convention is supposed to gavel in on Monday afternoon. Security has already been very, very tight here. We're actually standing outside the security perimeter where the convention is going to be taking place. But as you can imagine, of course, with the former president of the United States prepared to come into town by Monday, and of course, many lawmakers, high-profile officials. An event of this magnitude requires intense security, and so we have already seen that, being put in place here in Milwaukee. But it's significant too because the former president is expected to announce his running mate, any moment now in this rally that he was holding. We were wondering if that might be kind of the news event of that time. Yeah. And it's significant, too, that we have heard from the former president as well, describing how what happened tonight.
And Caitlin, you have covered numerous Trump rallies. Talk to us about the security at an event like this. there's sort of an expectation that given the heavy security, given the Secret Service president, the magnetometers, the sweeps that we all undergo to cover something like this, or be present in something like this, that a shooter couldn't possibly pierce the security perimeter. Explain to our audience what the security is normally like, what the expectations are.
That's exactly right, Lana. And just on Tuesday, I was down in Miami at Trump's golf course covering a rally that he was having there. I have attended many Trump rallies, and I can say that, the one earlier this week was an example of how they usually are, which is very heightened security. Everyone has to go through magnetometers, as you mentioned, and also we have to get there. The press, at least, has to get there hours in advance, of course, for that security sweep that you mentioned. Just to give you a little sense of these rallies, they also often take place outside. And that's important here because they are big spaces and they're wide open spaces. So obviously, this is a huge security failure, given what we know so far from law enforcement about how the shooter did this. But those are kind of typical for his rallies. They take place, often in big fields or outdoor places. The one today was in a pretty remote location. Just a couple of weeks ago, I attended one also in Virginia at a very remote location. So the idea that this could happen, given the amount of security there, and also that this is the former president of the United States. He's not only the presumptive, almost, Republican nominee for president, which also would grant him high security. He is the former president, so travels with Secret Service, is often, always protected. And so the idea that this could happen at this event is just absolutely, tragic and historic in that way. I would also note kind of the mood of these rallies. I've noted at the couple of ones that I've attended in the past couple of weeks, I've noticed more children in the audience. It's summer, kids are on school break, as you know, and these events, these rallies for Trump supporters are a very celebratory atmosphere. There's always music playing. People get there hours and hours in advance, waiting often, especially lately, in the hot sun to see the former president and the person that they are supporting in this current election. So the idea that this could happen there, when a lot of people go to these to celebrate the candidate that they are supporting, especially with children in the audience, is really something to behold.
Yeah, and Caitlin, as both of us are mothers, it certainly brings a different perspective, thinking about children in the audience witnessing these sorts of things. As we're discussing the security at a rally and the difference between the RNC, which is another high security event, but it's enclosed, which is different from this. But I understand that the perimeter is being expanded at the RNC. How are people feeling now about the security of that event?
Well, this was a city already on high alert. I mean, just yesterday we were, talking to voters, and one of them noted that he was a police officer and was prepared for really anything, of course. And that is standard for these types of massive conventions, of course, that only happen every 4 years. So the city was already on high alert. Much of it had been already shut down, and a lot of voters that we were talking to that live here were planning to be elsewhere. Having said all of that, this also comes at a time, of course, that threats and attacks and the political rhetoric is especially heated. Just earlier this week, I was reporting on increased threats to local officials out in Nevada, but this increase that we've seen around the country to, even the kind of fundamental local, very basic offices. We had witness accounts of people being, harassed and threatened just for doing kind of basic fundamentals of their job. This, of course, is at the highest level of politics. And so the context for all of that is just critical to understand the time that we are in as well, and will continue to be.
All right, Caitlin Huey-Burns from Milwaukee. Thank you, Caitlin. You have been watching our breaking news coverage on the assassination attempt on Donald Trump, the presumptive Republican nominee. Keep it right here. You're streaming CBS News 24/7.